Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today I can't believe we're doing this, but we are spotlighting Ribombee for Regulation H. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're doing this. Somewhere one of our viewers, Vivian, is going crazy right now because she is the biggest, strongest soldier of Ribombee. Okay, well Viv, this one's for you. So there's a pretty cool core running around with Ribombee right now, and I can't believe it is actually running around right now. But here we are. And if you're also keeping tabs on Lyle Regionals, there's also a Ribombee team that's also featured there. And there's a few players running it into day 2 as we speak, right? And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? This core actually makes sense here. So I'm gonna give my take on the Ribombee squad here. Now, I'm not gonna say that what we have is better than what's being run right now at Lyle. Or even what has been previously run at other regionals and other tournaments in Regulation H. But I think we have a pretty good squad here. And at the very least, we give you some ideas. So this way you can take with what we got and then just make some tweaks and adjustments as you seem fit here, right? So at the very least, we can give you some inspiration. But before we even get into the team building, we have to really analyze like why Ribombee would even get play in Regulation H. So first of all, you're a bug fairy, all right? And remember, there's not too many fairies running around in the format. If your name isn't Whimsicott or even the occasional Primarina or Ninetales, that's pretty much it. So at the very least, Ribombee can insert itself as a pretty decent fairy type and can pressure a lot of these Dragonites that are only running Scale Shot right now, and then just hit it hard with a Moonblast. But really the selling point comes with the other moves that it can offer besides the fairy typing and the fairy attack. So first of all, you do get access to Tailwind, and like we said, you do get access to Moonblast, just like Whimsicott, by the way. But the other selling point is Fake Tears along with having Protect here, and Whimsicott also gets Fake Tears, right? And if anything, Whimsicott is the quote-unquote faster Fake Tears user because it does get Prankster, right? And I want to just put these Pokemon by themselves, right? So then what is the difference? Why wouldn't someone just run Whimsicott over something like Ribombee? Well, here's the thing, like non-prankster Fake Tears is actually still pretty solid because again, you can get around psychic terrain that way. And at the very least, you can also click Fake Tears into those dark types because you are a non-prankster move, right? And that's the big selling point with Ribombee. And then at the same time, look at the speed here, right? 124 speed versus Whimsicott's 116. So at the very least, you know, you are faster than a 120 Pokemon. You know who's 120? That's pretty dominant right now in the format. That is a Sneasler, right? So at the very least, you as a Ribombee can outspeed a Sneasler, okay? And then hit it with a Moonblast technically, right? For decent neutral damage, and then just go from there, right? But the other selling point with Ribombee is the ability, right? Shield Dust. If you read this, right, it says the Pokemon is not affected by secondary effect of another Pokemon's attack. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like a Whimsicott with something like a Covert Cloak, which is doing the exact same thing here, right? But what's the difference? The difference here is I don't have to have an item for that. I have it in my ability already, which means I get to have a Covert Cloak as an ability, which means I can run an item. And now that means I get to run Focus Sash on this. And that is huge, by the way, okay? And, you know, with a Whimsicott, you have to run the Covert Cloak, which means you don't have the Sash, right? If you want to go that route. But now that I have Shield Dust as the ability, which is like my inherent Covert Cloak, now I could run the Focus Sash on the Ribombee and be able to take that big hit and maybe get off my Tailwind, get off that Moonblast or Fake Tears or whatnot. So if anything, Ribombee's got quite a bit of a selling point here in Regulation H. And there's a few teams that you can actually use Ribombee on, right? And, you know, sometimes we'll even see, you know, Terra Flying, where it can partner next to something like an Ursaluna. We've seen teams like that. Otherwise, you'll also see something like Terra Fairy for a little bit more damage, or even Terra Stellar for the same thing, like a little bit more damage. And then technically also Terra Steel works just to help you get around the Dire Claw poison shenanigans. So all of this is very much on the table for Ribombee in terms of the Terra type. It really depends on you. If you want a little bit more offense, obviously go with the Fairy, go with the Stellar, right? Otherwise, if you want the Terra Steel to help you get around the Dire Claw stuff, then definitely explore that route, right? But if you're going to go with the Fake Tears, that means you need some special attackers to take advantage of this. And usually the magic number is 2. We want at least 2 special attackers besides the Ribombee itself to take advantage. So something like this, I'm going to put 3 options here, and we're going to only use 2 of them, right? But here we go. Gholdengo is a great benefitter of the Fake Tears, along with Tailwind support, right? just like with Whimsicott. Then at the same time here, you do have the Blood Moon Ursaluna, which again loves Tailwind, loves Fake Tear support. And then at the same time, you know, if you do run the Life Orb on the Gholdengo, that means you can sacrifice a little bit of damage for bulk on the Ursaluna with the Assault Vest, but you can compensate a little bit because now you have the Fake Tear support for the Ursaluna. So now, you know, moves that may not KO anymore because you don't have the Life Orb on the Ursaluna all of a sudden will KO because you have the support of the Fake Tears from the Ribombee. Another one is the Archelodon here with the Power Herb set. And it's, you know, the Electro Shot here. So this is another Pokemon, and then we could probably run Sturdy here. Another one that can benefit off of the Tailwind and the Fake Tear support. We've seen this multiple times on a lot of different teams, right? Usually this is just a Whimsicott slot, so you can almost technically run the same thing, right? Now, I'm going to instead just pick these two, okay? I don't think we necessarily need Archelodon. I don't want to double up per se on the Steel type here, even though it is totally fine. We've seen this on Ring teams before, but I think if you're going to run this, I think you might as well just add Dragonite here, right? And then just go with a Ribombee Dug Core with Dragonite, Gholdengo, and Ursaluna. Well, technically Ursaluna before the Gholdengo, and this way we can actually get the Dug Core going here. So this is pretty much the core of the team, right? So you got offense here, you got support, and then you got more offense, right? Now, if I'm going to have Life Orb on the Gholdengo, I'm going to have Nasty Plot here. I need some space to be able to set this up. So ideally, I want maybe some kind of fake out, maybe some kind of redirection here. And this is where the Incineroar does come into play here, right? And these 5 is essentially the core that you're seeing right now at Lyle. And it's also a core that you've seen elsewhere from like Victory Road, from other previous Regulation H tournaments. Maybe not necessarily these 5, but at least 4 of these 5, right? So I really just started out with the Dug Core here and then added Ribombee. And then I just wanted to balance out the rest of the team with a little bit of a defensive core here. This last slot here, it's still quote up for grabs. I just needed some way to help me, you know, deal with Trick Room and at least give me a little bit of a space here. So in the end, you know, I went with something like Amoongus. I've seen a lot of different slot options here in this last slot here. I've seen Mimikyu, for example, but not Gholdengo. Because again, Mimikyu, you know, does get access to Trick Room. It's another fairy type, by the way. It's a ghost type. I've seen something like, you know, Porygon and whatnot, but those are like for the Ursaluna team. So in the end, I just decided to go with the Amoongus here. Again, redirection and fake out pressure for my Gholdengo here. Also technically for my Dragonite here is also pretty good. And the way we're going to play Dragonite here is going to be a little bit different than you might imagine here. And when I was testing this kind of Dragonite, oh, I was having a lot of fun with it. And I think this Dragonite set that I'm going to show you is still going to be good heading into Las Vegas, okay? But this is the 6 that I was testing, and I was having a lot of fun with the 6. I'm not gonna lie. There was multiple modes of the team. Sometimes you don't even necessarily need to bring the Ribombee. These homies are enough, right? Because they do so much damage. They're very bulky, okay? And then if the Gholdengo gets set up, it's over, right? So, and then in some games, you can bring the Ribombee, right? Where you can just click Tailwind, Fake Tears, melt things with Make It Rain. You don't even need the Nasty Plot setup. You can just go immediately for the Fake Tear support. And then if anything, you know, once the Gholdengo's done, you know, the Ursaluna can come in and pick up the slack and take advantage of the Tailwind and start clicking, you know, these hyper voices, these Blood Moons, right? And all in all, Vacuum Wave is also really good here. Like Fake Tear's Vacuum Wave is also really good. That's another thing that you can also consider here. And then you also have the Earth Power here, right? So I was having a lot of fun with this. I'm not gonna lie, and you know, I'm not saying this is like the quote unquote perfect Ribombee 6, but at the very least, you could win a lot of games with this, and that's exactly what I was doing here. And we got some test games to show you with this, but I wanted to just show you how we're gonna round this out here. So this was the team, right? So with Dragonite, here's what I decided to do. I decided to do this. Okay, watch this. We got Inner Focus. I'm not changing it to multi-scale. This is not Scale Shot, Tailwind, Haze stuff. Here's what we're doing. We are choosing Violence. We're going Banded D-Knight with Inner Focus. It's about time this Dragonite set came to be back in Regulation H here. Now, again, you remember, you know, Chenpao Dragonite stuff here. You know how strong that was. I still think this is good even right now. And you got to see how good it was when Ofamezi was using this, you know, with Choice Band. Terra Normal could get impact stuff. And I think Banded D-Knight is going to be still strong right now because, again, Inner Focus means no fake out, no intimidate. Think about how much Rillaboom and how much Incineroars are running around right now, especially from you know, the manual 6, especially, you know, how annoying Blood Moon is, right? If you could just get out some immediate offense with Choice Band, right, where you just don't necessarily need to rely on Gholdengo setup, right, you could go far, because the Dragonite is essentially a delete button, and that's how I wanted to play the D-Knight here. I got enough, you know, support and chip damage, right, with these 4, right, but I need like instant burst. Okay, right? And Dragonite gives me exactly that, instant burst here. So that's how I decided to play this. And I was having a lot of fun with it, right? So, Outrage, of course, right? Just, again, another instant delete button. And then, like I said, Giga Impact was good. Along with Extreme Speed, Terra Normal Bandit Extreme Speed can pick up a lot of KOs, by the way. And then this last slot here was up for grabs. I floated between something like, you know, Ice Spinner to at least blow up terrain, right? I think that's also within the realm. Otherwise, I just went with low kick here. You know, a decent, you know, banded low kick fighting was pretty good into something like King Gambit, for example, right? Or like the other Ursalunas for that matter. So I still decided on this. I think this last slot here is up for grabs here, but I chose low kick in our testing. Okay, but yeah, like I said, the Dragonite is the physical offensive delete button. You got enough delete buttons here with Gholdengo and Ursaluna. You got the backbone here. Right, so let Dragonite be like the instant physical offense here. All right, this Ursaluna, again, not as much damage as a Life Orb Ursaluna, but again, super annoying, super hard to remove, especially when you have, you know, an Assault Vest on the Ursaluna combined with the Intimidate support from Incineroar. Now, all of a sudden, you got reduction in physical damage. You got reduction in special attack damage. The Ursaluna stays on the field, and it keeps dealing all this chip damage. And you know how annoying the Yawn set is, right? And again, you can technically do that too. You could also do Yawn Ursaluna here and go like Assault Vest Incineroar. I think that's also another set that you can definitely take advantage of. But in our testing and at the time of the creation of the team, I went with AV Ursaluna and I went with Incineroar with another item, which I'm going to show you in a second. But again, the leftovers Yawn set definitely is available, and that also gives you space to set up a nasty plot Gholdengo. So if that's something that you're interested in, then you can definitely explore that route as well. Okay, anyway, I went with Terra Water here rather than the electric stuff. If you like the Terra Electric Ursaluna, then you can definitely do that as well. I think the electric set is also really, really solid too. Gholdengo here, again, I just kept this Terra Water. All right, Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, Nasty Plot, Protect. Okay, and then Incin. Now, here's the thing with Incineroar. I went with Intimidate support here, but I was going, instead of like Safety Goggles, which again, you can definitely do, I made this a little bit more offensive, and I went with Mirror Herb here because for a couple of reasons. One, if you Intimidate a King Gambit or an Annihilate, they take advantage of Define, and then you get to copy their attack boost too. But nowadays, you can also, you know, do this against the Swords Dance Sneasler, right? Because again, one thing the Sneasler can do is, especially nowadays with the Grassy Seed set that's running around like crazy, is they want to outpace your Intimidate with the Swords Dance. Well, if you do that, I'm gonna just take those attack boosts too, right? And then now all of a sudden my Incineroar can be the physical sweeper instead of the Dragonite here, right? So I like that, and I was able to, you know, in some games actually do that. And the other guy was like, oh, shoot. So Incineroar could end up being the physical sweeper too. So I was having fun with this. But by all means, if you like the Safety Goggles set, definitely go with the Safety Goggles set, or Citrus Berry if you want to go that direction. But I was testing with Mirror Herb, and I was having a lot of fun. Okay, so Fake Out, of course, Knockoff, Flare Blitz, right? And then this last one was Parting Shot, typical Incineroar set. I went Terra Grass here again, because I don't have the goggles. I want to get around Amoongus shenanigans here. I want to get around the ground move from the Ursaluna, and Grass was the way to go there. Amoongus here, Regenerator here. I put the berry on this, okay, and this one I believe it was Terra Fairy just to get around the Dragonite Scale Shot stuff. But if you like Terra Water Amoongus, that's also totally fine. Rage Powder, Spore, Pollen Puff. And then just Protect here. Again, Pollen Puff, pretty good healing for your Ursaluna. Keep it alive. Same thing with, these other Pokemon here. Just being able to keep your allies alive. And then just, of course, adding the Spore Pressure. And then having something to bring in the Trick Room games was also pretty solid here. You can even go like Terra Psychic Amoongus here. Just, again, to be able to resist the Expanding Force nonsense. If you want to, do that. That's also there. But if you got your own Amoongus set / EVs, feel free to use that. But this is just what I was testing at the moment there, right? So let me just put this back here to Terra Fairy. Okay. And that's pretty much it. So this was the team, okay? So Shield Dust, Ribombee here, of course. This is Inner Focus Dragonite, AV, Ursaluna, Life Orb Gholdengo, and Mirror Herb Instant, and then finally over here I have the Citrus Berry Amoongus. So now what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna slap on some EV spreads here and give you some ideas for some of these, because again, none of this is set in stone here. I'm just giving you guys a decent starting point here, so this way you have something to jump on the ladder to test with Ribombee. All right, so we're back here with Ribombee. I think we can just keep it relatively standard with this one. Let's just go Timid, 252, 252 here, right? Nothing else really needs to be said. You're a Sashmon. You're meant to just stay on the field, click Tailwind, click Fake Tears, and then if you died, that's okay. You bring something else more aggressive, right? The D-Knight, also the same thing. I'm just going to go Adamant and just nuke something, right? Adamant 252, 252. This is my delete button. Now, Ursaluna. So I feel like there's a couple ways you can do this. So first of all, we're going to go Modest 116, of course, right? This is the standard way. You're hitting the bump here with your special attack stat, the second bump, right? And then after this, you're going to be super bulky, or you can have some bulk and some speed. Two ways to approach it, right? By the way, if you're trying to get better in competitive Pokemon, if you're trying to learn how to create EV spreads, and you're not really sure how to do it, make sure you comment below asking what are EV bumps here, because that is like step one in creating a complex EV spread that is not 252, 252. So if you don't know what those are, comment below asking what are EV bumps. I will reply and respond to you. Otherwise, I have a whole video explaining what are EV bumps. If you look in the video description below, in every single video, one of our videos there linked is titled what are EV bumps, or even how to optimize EVs, right? So you can click those and learn a little bit more about how we do it on this channel. But this is the bread and butter of what we do. Okay, anyway, so here's a couple ways to do this. First of all, I went to 208 HP. This is just to optimize against the Rillabooms that want to bring their terrain and you know, give us recovery. So 208, factor of 16 looks pretty good there. I settled on that. Then after this, it depends on how you want to approach with the Ursaluna. So there's two ways. What I was doing was I was investing in speed here. I went to 116, so this way under Tailwind, I got to outspeed the max speed Adamant Sneaslers with a Focus Sash. Those cap at 172. So at least this way, by hitting 87 under Tailwind, I get to 174. So this way I could outspeed them under my own Tailwind, right? And then from here, 1 point in the defense and dumping the rest here in special defense. Look how nice the numbers work out. You're getting triple digits flat, a base 100 here, not a base 100, a 100 stat, you know, thank you. And then of course, multiply this by 1.1, nice solid even number with the Assault Vest. Pretty optimal here, and then just 1 point in the defense here, right? So this is one way to do it. Otherwise, what you can do is just this, where you can drop this to about 20 here, 75 speed, and this way under Tailwind you hit 150. This is good enough to outspeed the max speed Gholdengos, right? Because the max speed Gholdengos, they're gonna hit 149. So if your Ursaluna hits 150 on their Tailwind, you outspeed those Gholdengos. And then these 96 EVs, you can dump this into physical defense like this. And now this gives you a very, very good favorable roll against the Adamant Sneasler close combat without even needing the Intimidate, right? So if you want to go this direction, right? Because now look at this. You got HP EVs, you got defensive EVs, you got special defense EVs. You're slow, right? But you're bulky and you're harder to remove, right? So if this Ursaluna is more to your liking, then you can give that a go. Otherwise, what we were doing, again, we sacrificed our physical bulk because we have Incineroar anyway. And then we just went with a little bit more speed just to outspeed the threats that we want to outspeed, like quote unquote a Sneasler, right? And also technically Annihilate too, right? Because again, they're gonna hit like 157 and whatnot. So yeah, this under Tailwind just more than enough will outspeed the ape there. Gholdengo, I kept it at Timid 252, 252, right? A little bit of Life Orb optimization here, right? Ending in a HP of 9, so this way 16.9 rounds down to 16 damage per Life Orb tick, right? If you break the threshold like this, now you're at 170. Now you're taking 17 points of Life Orb chip per turn. Why would you take additional more damage when you don't need to? So undercut the threshold by 1 like this, dump the rest here in special attack, and this is our Timid Gholdengo set that we were testing, right? You can definitely go with a little bit more bulk. You can drop this to about another 80 EVs and put more here like this, go with 179, right? That's also totally fine here if you wanted to go that direction, or you could even do something like this, where you add another 80 EVs, right, to your HP, and now you're dealing less damage, but you have more bulk, right? So if you want to go that direction, you definitely can. Otherwise, I just want it to be like a little bit more aggressive with this Gholdengo and just go with max speed and a little bit of life orb optimization there. Now, the Incineroar here, I wanted to make this a little bit more offensive just to help the Dragonite a bit, right? So I still went with Adamant Incin. I went with Adamant 36. This is the first benchmark there. Okay, and I wanted some speed on this thing, right? So what I did was this. I went almost max HP. And from here, I went to about 212 speed here, right? So this at 107 does two things. One, it outspeeds the max speed modest Ursalunas, right? That's one thing. They hit about 104. And now I'm at 107, so I get to speed creep a little bit. And then at the same time, if it does come up, I get to outspeed Dragapult if I need to. There is still a few Dragapults running around, but not that Pult is a big threat here. You know, you got these fairies, you got the Ursalunas and that super bulky there as well. So, but still, it helps. Then after this, you know, look, you got 16 EVs left here, 1 point in defense, and then just 2 points there in special defense. That was it. That was our Mirror Herb Adamant 36 Incineroar set. This Amoongus here, let's go Relax Nature. Again, the main goal here is just to put yourself out of range of the final Gambit Annihilate. 219 can do that for you, but because I have a berry here, I want a nice solid even number. I'll push it to 220. That's really all I want. 0 speed, again, for the Trick Room matchups. Put the second benchmark here in defense and dump the rest here into special defense. And that's it. That is our basic mushroom that we've used since like Sword and Shield. All right, never really fails. And that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, this is it. This is what I use, and this is what I was testing with. And again, if you have your own EV spreads for some of these mons like Ursaluna, Gholdengo, Incin, Amoongus, feel free to use those if you want. This is just what we were using, and at the very least, it gives you a starting point if you have no idea what to really create in terms of those EV spreads. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is some test games, so this way you can kind of see how the team functions and how to pilot it a little bit and how to get board positioning with the squad in general. So yeah, let's take a look at those games. All right, so this is a best of 3 match with AOX 93 here. Now, if you don't know AOX, they are the tournament organizer for the trainer school tournaments on Limitless, and those tournaments, they generate, you know, anywhere from like 100 to 200 people when they're made. So shout outs to AOX for making such really big successful tours, and we just happen to run into them on best of 3 ladder here. And again, if you need some testing with Regulation H, if you want to play in a very large tournament, definitely join the trainer school tours. They're a lot of fun. They're very long too, so you get that regional experience almost, right? So shout outs to AOX here. We had a great match here. So they also asked in chat, Cloverbells, is that you? And I'm like, no, I can't respond to that, man, because, you know, that's gonna affect how we're gonna play here. I need to start changing my showdown alt names. I can't use the Teal Pens account anymore because you guys know who I am. All right, so I'm gonna have to make a change there and do something else because I don't want you to I don't want you guys to know it's me. All right, because it's gonna affect how you play a little bit, and I don't want that. I want to keep it honest here. Anyway, so AOX has a pretty cool team here. So he's got the Sneasler stuff again. So what was really interesting here was like, it looks like the Emmanuel 6 here, but it was actually an interesting variation of it. So I think I have their set here. So it was basically Life Orb Ursaluna, not the Yawn set, and it was Icy Wind Encore Roarville and Ninetales with Blizzard. It was AV Rillaboom with Drum Beating and High Horsepower, right? So maybe they're Max Speed Jolly, I would imagine, I think. And then it was White Herb Sneasler. Okay, so it's so yeah, it's not Grassy Seed because the Grassy Seed was on the Gholdengo. So it was actually a pretty cool variation of the big 6 that's running around right now. And I'm willing to explore it myself here, but again, there's so much variations of that 6, and this is one of them here. So what I'm thinking here is because their Ursaluna is not Yawn, it makes it that much more less annoying. Okay, so I don't know if they realized that, but you know, we breathed a sigh of relief when we saw that, right? After that, you know, I feel like Incin, Rillaboom there, we weren't really threatened by that because like our own Incineroar is going to be pretty okay in mitigating that damage. We can pressure Gholdengo too. And really what it just comes down to is, can I position my sweepers correctly, aka the Dragonite and or the Gholdengo here, right? So this was game 1. So he led Sneasler and he led the Rillaboom there. So, of course, pretty expected here, right? I led Dragonite Incin. Okay, so Good news, bad news. I intimidate the Rillaboom and the Sneasler. I pop the White Herb here, so because again he's not gonna get intimidated. So he fakes out my Incin, right? And then I wanted to go for big damage here, right? So this is why I Terra Normal here, but then he gets the the Dire Claw Sleeve, of course, right? But I kept playing here, so now we have Gholdengo coming in. I knew he wanted to get a little bit greedy there. Dragonite wakes up, and look at this. Big Giga Impact Terra Normal there, so goodbye Rillaboom. Instant delete button. So that's one less option to worry about here. Now, Incin comes in, doesn't intimidate the D-Net because we're in our focus. I wanted to protect Gholdengo here, right? And he deletes the Dragonite here. I wanted the free switch. Listen, the Dragonite wasn't going to attack anymore, right? So, you know, I don't think he needed to kill it, but now my Incin gets in a pretty decent spot here, right? So now I'm just going to fake out here, right? I know he wants the CC on the Incin, but again, I intimidated, so I knew I could take one. There's my free nasty plot, right? So that was good for us, right? So now here's what we have to do. We just kind of have to shift the board state a little bit. I'm going to go into Ribombee now, okay? He goes for the CC there, okay? And now, because he did that, now he's -2, quote unquote. Now here we go, make it rain. Goodbye, Sneasler. The Incin, I know we can take one Throat Chop if that's what he was going for, right? And he does go for the knockoff there. I said Throat Chop, okay? Because again, this Incin was -1 there. No Flare Blitz, all right? So now it's his Gholdengo. There's Terra Water here. I just wanted to get the speed advantage here. So Ribombee, you know, here we go. Tailwind support. I know he's going to potentially die this turn, but I wanted to at least get the Tailwind off. And now this Gholdengo is quote unquote -1. So that gives me a fighting chance here. I'm going to go into Incin now here, and I'm going to say, right, we're going to fake it out here, and this Gholdengo did not protect. I got scared. I'm very shocked he didn't do that, but he went for his own nasty plot here. And I get the Mirror Herb special attack boost here, right? So now we just go for Make It Rain, big damage, and thank you, Ribombee, because that Tailwind actually saved me here. We got to knock off the Gholdengo. We got to outspeed it there, and there is the knockoff from the Incin. It's not going to matter anyway. We go for the Shadow Ball. We're able to take out the Incin. And that was that. So the Tailwind helped us win game 1 there. I'm very surprised that they just didn't go for the Gholdengo on that kill there, because they would have just took it. But I had to make some kind of play there. I was already quote-unquote behind a little bit. But yeah, now we go into game 2. So game 2 here, what I decided to do, because I already took game 1, I wanted to at least see if I could still get away with the Terra Normal D-Knight stuff here, right? So and by the way, if I was already down a game, I probably wouldn't do this lead, but this is like kind of how I like to play best of 3 sometimes. I can take some risk because I'm already up a game. He goes with the Ninetales Sneasler instead here. So there's my Incin, and there is my Dragonite yet again. I just want to see what he decides to do here, right? So of course, there's the White Herb yet again, okay? I'm going to go into Ribombee here. I actually get this wrong. He goes for Terra Sneasler here, right? So I could have went for the Ninetales there, but again, it wouldn't matter because he got to outspeed me anyway. Right? But this is fine, because now here's what happens. I get to go into Incin, right? And my Ribombee can just go for the Tailwind here. Now, the Incin will live because, again, that Sneasler is -1. So there's the Tailwind, and there is the knockoff into the Sneasler, right? So I was still okay with losing the D-Knight because that meant my Ribombee got to set up Tailwind. I can still play for the Gholdengo endgame. Here is Rillaboom here. Okay, I'm going to go into Gholdengo now, technically. Right, I'm just going to protect Ribombee. See what happens here. I'm still like quote-unquote behind here. Right, and there is the Blizzard. Now, the problem here is the Ninetales is Sash. And, of course, he did get a Aurora Veil up. So I'm still like quote-unquote and not in a great spot here. So I still went with the Fake Tears. Make it rain, some big damage. Maybe I go for the kill. I see the damage there. So I'm keeping that in mind for a potential game 3 here. Right, he goes for Blizzard. And the Rillaboom, does the high horsepower kill? It does. Okay, so that's information that I needed to know. I wanted to see if it would. And I technically, from that range, I would imagine it would. So now I'm just left with Incin. I'm going to give him game 2 here. And now we go into game 3 here. All right, so here's game 3 here. Now I'm going to show him what I would have led in game 2 if I had lost game 1 here. So I'm just going to straight up lead the Ribombee and the Gholdengo here, right? And there's the Sneasler Ninetales combo again. So Gholdengo looking pretty good right here because I don't know what the Sneasler is supposed to do here. All right, so there's the free Tailwind. And really what I wanted was just instant damage right from the get-go. Get that Ninetales down to Sash. And let's see what he decides to do with this Sneasler here. Does he go for the Ribombee stuff? Does he let my Gholdengo live? Right, I was okay with Blizzard there. I felt like you could have probably went with like Aurora Veil there, but he went for Blizzard anyway. So Ribombee dies. Now we get to go into D-Knight. Okay, so now we just go for Make It Rain, take everything out. I'm surprised no Protect came out on either slot here. Actually, the Ninetales didn't even have one, right? But I thought the Sneasler might at least do for it, because I thought you need to stagger your slot there, so this way you can stall out my Tailwind a little bit. But now you're just left with Instant Rillaboom here, which I was fine with because I have my own Incineroar. So now I could cycle here, and my Dragonite's going to have an advantage here because I'm a Dragon type, right? So Raw Outrage here comes out. There's the high horsepower. Again, this is still totally fine here. Knock off into D-Knight here. And now, you know, we're just trying to weather the storm a little bit here, right? So I'm just going to fake out Instant here, right? Go for another Outrage. It goes into Instant here. I'm just chipping things away. I would have loved if that went into Rillaboom there. High horsepower into Instant, still fine, right? Confusion, unfortunately, is not the greatest thing, right? Had I got this attack off, I would have been okay, but I just want to reposition here. I know he can't really beat the D-Knight all in one go, so I was like, you know what? Let me just give him the Gholdengo here, right? So knock off into D-Knight, that's okay. I can't really take this risk here, so what I'm going to do is just reposition the board again. Another cycle with Instant, Protect, Gholdengo there, Pivot and Protect, of course, the 2 Ps. High horsepower is definitely going there, right? Knock off, again, this is fine. Takes away my Mirror Herb, right? I get a little bit of recovery for Gholdengo, but really I just wanted to go back into D-Knight, reposition the board, fake out the Instant, right? Because whatever Rillaboom was going for, I was going to be fine here. Goes into the Instant slot there, and now we're good, right? Now no more terrain. Okay, no more Grassy Glide shenanigans, no more Woodhammer. Now we outspeed everything. I just want to protect Gholdengo, take something out, Outrage into Rillaboom, goodbye. Now it's just Instant, all right? Knock off there. Again, we're fine there, and now we just Shadow Ball, chip, and finish him off with the Outrage. What a great set, man. But what it really came down to was, again, just getting a little bit more early damage with the Ribombee Gholdengo idea, and then playing for that Dragonite endgame, because I knew if I could at least remove the Sneasler, then the Dragonite would have been fine, especially with like the normal stuff. So that's pretty much what I was playing for. All right, so this is the Arizabeth team here. So again, I like Ribombee here, right? Because again, I can have fake tier support in a lot of these options here, especially that Archelodon, where I can neutralize that Assault Vest a little bit and just, you know, get my Gholdengo and Ursaluna in a pretty good spot here. But Instant is also strong here because I can intimidate both the Dragonite and the Ursaluna and pressure the Gholdengo too, and even the Sinistcha, right? So I'm gonna bring those 3 at the very least. So here comes Ribombee, here comes the Instant, right? Just for a little bit of offense defense kind of lead there. Instant, and he leads Gholdengo Dragonite. So Instant gets great value here immediately. Dragonite has to protect. He's -1. It's Trick Gholdengo, so he does do that. He gets his own sash, quote unquote, but I get free knockoff here. Right, so this Gholdengo is down to its last health. So I'm going to go into Blood Moon here. I already got my Tailwind up. Has to protect here, which is fine. I just want to remove the loaded dice on the D-Knight, right? Just to help myself here. Dragonite goes for Tailwind, but again, it's -1. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage. Goes into Archelodon. Good play there. Vacuum Wave does good damage, but again, I give him the +1 defense there, which I get to copy, right? So, and look at this D-Knight. Doesn't do that much damage here. No loaded dice. He's -1. Now he's -2. So unfortunately, I don't get to really take advantage of the mirror, but at least I get Gholdengo in a good spot here. So I'm going to go with Instant here. You know, just again, he does go for Terra Fighting here. Again, Scale Shot's not going to do a whole lot because now this D-Knight is -3. Body Press is going to hurt, especially +1 here. But again, free Nasty Plot for Gholdengo, right? And he actually just goes for Snarl anyway. So I'm back to +1, right? This D-Knight is -3, and he's, you know, kind of weak here. He's chipped. Does protect here, which is fine. I'm going to protect too. And he does crit me with the Body Press. So unfortunate there because I was going to try and remove the Assault Vest at the very least. But this is fine. Now we go into Ribombee. Okay, now we click Tailwind. And now we just go with the +1, Make It Rain. It's good damage. Right, we remove the D-Knight. And now the Archelodon can remove Gholdengo if it wants. If he decides to. But he just goes for Snarl. I still felt like I would have lived the Dragon Attack anyway. Because again, he didn't give himself a +1 boost. Now it's just Pelipper. Now we go into Blood Moon here. We just want to remove the Archelodon slot here. Even if we give up the Tailwind on the Pelipper, it's fine because that Gholdengo is only 1 HP. We pressure with Vacuum Wave, and that's the selling point here with Ursaluna. Now I can reset my Gholdengo. I can go Terra Water. And with the AV, I'm going to resist everything that the Pelipper can throw at me, right? So there's the Muddy Water. I don't really care anymore about the Ribombee. It did its job. It gave me Tailwind here. He gets the double. Doesn't matter. I can just click it again next turn. And I've already chipped the Pelipper. That's more than half, right? It goes into Ursaluna. It's still fine here because I have the AV, right? So there's the Vacuum Wave. you know, he got his double. It still couldn't really help him here. And now we just remove the Pelipper with the Ribombee here, right? And again, Tailwind support was really, really good. And the priority move with the Ursaluna and the AV was also really, really solid. All right, with game 2 here. So with this one, I wanted to just adjust a little bit. I still went with Incineroar here, but then I went with Gholdengo. And he's going to go with Pelipper and the Ursaluna here. So this is actually free Intimidate here. And I wanted to see, would you actually protect the Ursaluna? He says, no, I'm just going to go straight for it. So I get to remove the Pelipper right from the get-go. And he goes for the Headlong Rush into the instant, which we live anyway, right? So this is good news for us because now the Gholdengo is in a pretty good spot because now he's taking Bird Chip. Gholdengo can click, you know, make it rain and whatnot. So he goes into Dragonite here. Good play there, right? At least we get to break multi-scale. All right, the Archelon goes to +1 here, which again, we get the copy. But again, we're just going to go for the parting shot. Weaken the Archelon again, go into Amoongus, right? And he goes for Snarl again. Now, this is still fine because again, I still have Spore Pressure. And I should have saw this. He does go into Ursaluna. The Archelon was already like mitigated. I should have spored the D-Knight here. This is on us. But we get punished here, right? A little bit. But still, we can go into Incineroar, at least sacrifice it, get one Intimidate off, and still spore the D-Knight here. And we'll just sacrifice the Incin here, right? And at least we get some mitigation here. And we get to spore the D-Knight. Goes for Earthquake. Again, we live all of this. All right, we activate our Berry. And again, now we do go for the Spore. So this is still fine, right? And again, we have to note he does have a chipped Archelon in the back. Now we go into our Ursaluna, and he goes into his Archelon. Good play there because, again, we went for the Blood Moon. We chose Violence there. This is still decent chip, quote-unquote. It does get to +1 here, right? And then I make a read there. I thought he was just going to hit with the Ursaluna, but again, Pollen Puff whiffed. Does go for Flash Cannon, not even like Body Press whatnot. So I get to click Earth Power there. All right, and now I get to click Spore, right? I thought he might switch. He did not switch. All right, so now we just go into Gholdengo here. Dragonite wakes up here. This is still fine. Gholdengo's able to resist this. So we keep our Amoongus alive there. And again, D-Knight was already like -1 here from the Intimidate. So this is fine. Again, the team will mitigate damage here, right? This is what we're looking for. So now this is just a free Blood Moon into D-Knight. It actually lives, unfortunately, right? So he does get to stay on the field a little bit. You know, again, Vacuum Wave. But again, this is fine because, again, Gholdengo gets to outspeed the Archelon on here and take it out. So now we're in a great spot because now the D-Knight can't switch out. He gets a double protect just like the other guy. But again, this is still fine. We go for Make It Rain. This is big damage. The Ursaluna can't really kill both here. He can only kill one. He goes for the Ursaluna. We live anyway. Again, we have the bulk there. Had he crit, I still don't think he wins because, again, Gholdengo still gets to outspeed everything here and just click Make It Rain again. And the D-Knight and the Ursaluna were chipped enough where even though we were, quote-unquote, a negative attack boost, we're still fine in that spot there. All right, so this one is against that P2 balance team with that flexible 6 slot there, and he's choosing Kilowattrel there. So I can still bring Incineroar into this. I just have to make sure I bring it in the back and remove the Kilowattrel first, right? So I'm going to lead with Ribombee here, and I'm going to lead with Dragonite. I'm going to choose Violence here, right? Because, again, I want big damage against whatever he's got here. So he's going with Gholdengo Kilowattrel. So Tailwind Make It Rain is a play, and he actually does go for Tailwind Make It Rain. So funny enough, he does do that. But now our Ribombee also can match that with Tailwind, and now we get to go for the Outrage into the Sashed Kilowattrel here. So that's important later on. Goes into Ursaluna now, right? Big chip into that Ursaluna. And now the Gholdengo, he goes for another Make It Rain. But the D-Knight actually lives there. So good bulk on our Dragonite, even though we don't really quote-unquote have any bulk there. But free Outrage, which means goodbye Ursaluna. So that worked out for us, right? So good value there. Now he goes into his Kilowattrel. He doesn't really have a choice. He has to go into Instant here to try and preserve and bait out the Vacuum Wave there. And he does. But again, this Gholdengo is not really doing a whole lot of damage. Now, the Dragonite, he had no choice. He had to do that. Because, again, the Dragonite was going for these hard-hitting outrages here. Now we can bring in Incineroar very safely. Kilowattrel coming in doesn't matter. No competitive for you. Incin was already out. Fake out on the board there. All right, so he had the faster one. That's our information there. So he has a faster Incin than me, quote unquote, technically. Knockoff again, but still fine because again, we get to click knockoff there. Goodbye Kilowattrel, and then just free Earth Power into Incin. It's not really a whole lot he can do right? Because now it's just a quote 2-on-1. Now we can go and pop the Terra Water. Perfect time to do it. All right, and then Incin here is just too much offense for him to handle here. And now he just burns off his last Make It Rain Life Orb boost. And then look, free knockoff. We don't even need the Ursaluna here because we get the crit. But despite that, Ursaluna lives and we get an attack off anyway. All right, so this game too was much quicker. But again, I still wanted more offense just by leading Dragonite here for raw damage. Ribombee here also looking pretty solid just to get up Tailwind, just in case we want to still match his Tailwind. Now he goes Incin Gholdengo. I think that's worse, right? Because now I can go into my Incin, save Ribombee for later. Make It Rain is totally fine here. Incin is able to resist that, right? There's the Life Orb chip there. And then look at low kicks damage. I'm just surprised that didn't kill. But again, it is an Incineroar there. He does live, and so do we. So now he goes into Kilowattrel. I was going for E-Speed here. And look at this. This is already like more than 50%. And that's really all I wanted. I just wanted more than 50% damage. And we pressured this Gholdengo, right? So he has to make a choice. Either you stay in with the Kilowattrel and die to E-Speed, or you switch it out. Something else takes an E-Speed, but then the Gholdengo could like protect, which is again fine, but we just click it again next turn. And then we still pressure this Gholdengo slot because again, you know, he is at a negative in terms of his damage because again, he clicked Make It Rain first. And our Incin is still relatively healthy, and we can still play for this Ribombee Tailwind endgame with our Ursaluna, which is again looking in a really, really good spot here. So yeah, he does time out and does give us the win, but I still felt like we were in a great spot. Couple of quick BO1s here. So this is, I believe this is that Wolf Glick team with the Hisui Zoroark. This team is so annoying, but he's got the same idea here. He's got the similar core here with the Tailwind user with Incin Gholdengo, Dragonite, Ursaluna there. So that's the 5, right? And then this last slot there is up for grabs. Again, we picked the quote-unquote Amoongus. He's picking the Hisui Zoroark. But here we go, Ribombee and Incin. Again, a little bit of stabilization. He's going with... All right, so there's the Whimsicott and Blood Moon Ursaluna. So again, this could be the Zoroark. Usually these guys want to do it. Terra Normal, just again to deal extra damage. I went with Grass just in case for the Earth Power stuff. It ends up being the Hisui Zoroark. Unfortunate for me, right? Icy Wind, good chip damage there. But again, Ribombee doesn't care about that. But Hyper Voice, he does pick up the KO. Not that it would have mattered anyway, because again, I mean, like in terms of the crit there, because now look at this. Free setup, right? Because again, we have the Tailwind support. Thank you, Ribombee. Okay, protect Gholdengo first. Raw, Hyper Voice. Okay, look at the damage on this Whimsicott, right? That's a lot. Okay, so now he can also go for his Tailwind. But again, it doesn't matter because my Gholdengo's faster. I just needed to make sure that the Ursaluna was in range for the Make It Rain, and it was, right? So yeah, that just ends up working for us. And now he has to go into his Gholdengo, which is pinned, and well, not really like pinned. It's the you know, Hisui Zoroark, and you know he wants to protect last turn of Tailwind, right? So again, Vacuum Wave doesn't, you know, gets whiffed, but again, free nasty plot. So I'm just gonna protect my Gholdengo and just go for Vacuum Wave there. And I felt like we would have been okay because again, you know, Make It Rain, it's fine. You know, we have the AV, and now you're just at a minus. And now we can beat him because now it's a 2-on-1 and it's his last turn of Tailwind. And now, again, he doesn't really have enough quote-unquote offense to handle the Gholdengo and Ursaluna here. All right, one last one here. I thought this was kind of funny because look at this guy. This guy has like similar ideas to what we're trying to do here. He still kept the Kamo, which is what is being played at Lyle. But instead, he put in the Archelon there. So he's got he's got 4 special attackers here that can benefit off of the fake tears. I think that's a little bit too much, but he does have it here. So I just want to see how he plays it. So he's gonna go with his Ursaluna, and he goes with his Incin. I'm gonna go with Gholdengo here, and I went with Dragonite here. So again, Dragonite does not care about your Incineroar, Intimidate, or Fake Out, right? So I'm just gonna go Terra Normal, just go for raw offense here. I could have even went for the low kick here, but I went with Giga Impact. And look, the Ursaluna actually lives, but that's so much damage, right? Earth Power comes out. Again, that's fine. Knock off removing my band, which is fine because now I can start clicking E-Speed if I can, right? And then Hyper Voice, I'm faster Ursaluna, right? So that's good news for me. Flare Blitz comes out, that's okay. So now I can start clicking E-Speeds. There's the Ribombee, right? Their own Ribombee. Ribombee clicks Protect. Again, this is fine. You know, that thing is Sash. I could have also technically clicked Earth Power into that instant slot there. You know, just maybe force out the Protect from Ribombee. No Tailwind there. So that's probably a misplay by us. But again, I get to click this again, right? So again, Chip from Extreme Speed does not kill, of course. Neither does Vacuum Wave. I thought I could get that thing to sash and just click Vacuum Wave, and I didn't. And I was very sad about that. But now again, look at this. He goes into Arch, but again, look at the pressure of Vacuum Wave on this. So again, he just stalls out my Extreme Speed again. But look at this. Vacuum Wave, that's still a lot, 43%. So we're still in a good spot. We removed the Ribombee, right? And he can only kill one of us. And so there's, again, more Vacuum Wave pressure. He decides to remove the Ursaluna, okay? But now look at this. Look how weak that Incin is. And now we get to bring in our Incin, right? And you can't fake out my D-Knight. So now this is easy. You click Protect there, that's okay. But I'm just trying to isolate the slot here, right? There's the Extreme Speed, and that's it. We just pick up the Incin. And now it's a 2-on-1, and he has no choice, and he just clicks Forfeit. So D-Knight with the priority Terra Normal is still very strong. All right, so that's it. So again, we're gonna put the paste in the video description below. So again, try out this Ribombee team. Okay, we had a good time with this. Again, Dragonite banned. It's gonna do a lot of damage here. Gholdengo has the support tools it needs. It's got Tailwind, it's got Fake Out and Redirection to set up the nasty plot. It could be your win condition, and the Ursaluna again also can be your win condition with the Assault Vest here. Just going for these priority Vacuum Waves. The big chip damage can capitalize off of the Fake Tears Tailwind stuff. So if you're ever in that spot, you can definitely utilize it. And it's pretty good. I like what it's supposed to do. That Amoongus slot, that's probably the one where you can like interchange a little bit. I still feel like it's okay because again, gives you a little bit more balance in some of the Trick Room games. It gives you a good backbone with Incineroar, in my opinion. So if you don't want to bring the Ribombee, you can always bring the Amoongus and just utilize that and just create space for the other offensive options, right, with your Sport Pressure. So if you want to play it like that, you definitely can. That's how I wanted to play it too. Because again, you're not going to bring the Ribombee every time, right? It's a relatively niche mod. The other 5 are very solid, or at least the other 4 with D-Knight, Gholdengo, Ursaluna, and Incin, right? So do with it with what you will. If you got your own EV spread with some of these guys, feel free to use that as well. But I just wanted to at least give you, like I said before, this solid starting point here. All right, so that's it for now, folks. Again, if you're heading to Vegas or some of these other EU regionals, after a while, of course, feel free to reach out and sign up for coaching on the channel. The tier 3 sub gets you a one-on-one team building session with me on Discord, where we get to build a team from scratch just like this. And then if you want a little bit more than that, then that's where we have tier 4, where you can sign up for that. And that not only gets you the team building session, but now you can send me your showdown replay. So now we can look at your battling and see how we can help you optimize some of your plays a little bit. So this way, not only do you get the team building out of it, but now you also get the battle aspect as well. All right, but that's it. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.